Hello and welcome. My name is Eric J. Reed. I am a .NET instructor for Centric Training, and this video is primarily for our career track developer students looking at how to use FileZilla and FTP to upload and maintain a website on a remote server. So we're going to hop right in here. Just looking at the domain that I have chosen and that I'm hosting out at Centric Hosting, which is a GoDaddy reseller. CentricDemo.com is the name of my domain. As you can see, this is just default content that GoDaddy provides before I've actually put any real content out on the remote server. So whatever I've done locally to create the website, I haven't actually published it yet. So this is what GoDaddy provides as default content, future home of something quite cool, and their little shirt here, and then they say, if you're a visitor, please check back soon. So what we need to do is we need to get some content going. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio here, and let's open up a website that I have been working on for my version 1 that I want to publish. These are just static HTML files, but as you can see, as I go to open this is within Visual Studio 2012. Within my documents, that structure, and inside of Visual Studio 2012 is the websites folder, and here's the website I want. Inside of it you start to see any other folders that website folder would have. So I open this. This is the folder that represents my website with all the HTML files. Here's an index page with its information, and here's my CSS here in the styles folder. There's some CSS that's been provided by the template that I was using, and so on. So that's the content that I want to upload. I even have an archive with the original template in here if you like to organize it that way. But I want to upload all this content out to GoDaddy, and I'm going to use a program called FileZilla to do that. So let's go over here to FileZilla and open that up. We've installed that. That's a free download. You can just search for FileZilla and install the client version, which is what we'll need. It's just a free bit of software that we can use for uploading files using FTP, File Transfer Protocol, which is useful for uploading or downloading multiple files at once, especially of larger file sizes. It's very common to use it when deploying files for web development. Okay, let's move into kind of phase 1 here for this demo. What we want to do is we want to upload and maintain that static HTML version of our site with FileZilla, and the first thing we need to do is we need to set up a site definition that explains where our local version of the folder is and where our remote version of the folder is located as well. Remember, a website at its simplest version is nothing more than a folder of files that can be accessed through a browser. So I'm going to go over here to FileZilla, to the File menu. I'm going to go to Site Manager, and this is where you manage these site definitions. Currently I don't have any sites in here. When you first start working with FileZilla, that'll be how it is, but as you move forward you'll have created several of these, and it'll make it much faster for you to access different sites that you need to maintain content for. I'm going to go ahead and click on New Site, and I'm just going to give this a name of Personal V1 for version 1. And my host is just going to be my domain name. Sometimes it might be ftp.domainname.com, whatever you have for your domain. Mine's just going to be centricdemo.com, which is my domain name, and that is good enough for that. The protocol, just leave that as FTP. I'll use plain FTP for encryption, and instead of anonymous, this is one of the benefits of using the site definition, is you can go ahead and set it to use normal logon type so that you can save your username and password. So I'll go ahead and put in my username and password as well. And then I'll go ahead and go over here to the Advanced tab, and then this is the other very important part of this site definition, is not only all the settings to get us out through FTP to the remote server, but to say where the folder is locally, where the folder is on that remote access server. So locally on our computer here, I'm going to browse out to that Personal V1 website that we saw earlier. So this is could be nested in different ways. All else fails, you could go through the computer and go to the C drive and narrow. I'll go all the way down to your personal documents and individual studio and so on. I'm just going to go through libraries to get to it quickly, and then here are my documents, and then I'll scroll all the way down to my Visual Studio nestings, and I'll get down into websites, and that's where we have our web forms websites by default. And here's my personal v1 that I've been working on. So again, this is that folder that contains all of the actual web content. So I'm going to select that folder that represents the website and hit OK. So now you'll see this long file path here. If I just kind of scroll through, that is describing where that's located locally on my computer, starting, if I hit the home key, all the way back here at the C drive, as you can see right there. So, all right, for my default remote directory, if I was going to go into some subfolder of where the FTP connection, landed me, then I would type in something here like /subfolder, and then that would explain that we're inside of some subfolder. But in fact, we're not. We're going to be right there in that root folder that we're given access to on GoDaddy server, so I can leave that one alone. And then I'm going to hit OK. And the benefit of doing this, and this first part here, where we just set up that site definition through the site manager, that first part we only need to do once for each site that we need to make a definition for. So now you can click on this drop down and see that you have that site listed, or any other sites you've saved, and you can go ahead and click on this personal v1, and now it should connect us not only locally, you'll see that we are connected locally here to that folder that we said, personal v1 in the websites folder. You can also see right here that it's easier to actually notice where we're located if you look at that local site file path. Over here on the remote side, on the other hand, you'll see it just says a / for showing us we're in the root folder of the remote server. On this side over here, we have again these two columns broken out for a total of 4 panes here. The first column is showing you with your local folder where it's located, and this is sort of a like File Explorer. You can expand out these different little pluses and minuses and look at things and see what's inside of here folder wise. But over here on the second pane down in the first column, this is the contents of whatever folder you have selected. So I have personal v1 selected, and all of those folders and files are displayed over here. This is your primary area for your local content. On the right hand column we have again the remote side, and so we're in the root folder there remotely. And then in the right bottom pane here, this is our primary area for our remote content for the selected folder. So currently you'll see that GoDaddy has some content, something like this is what you'll see when you first arrive here and connect to the GoDaddy server, something like the DB backups and stats and welcome.html. This is actually the file that GoDaddy has out there for us that is causing us to see this in my browser, that future home of something quite cool. So what I would like to do is I want to overwrite or move my content over here. If we would like to make an archive of what they've provided for us, we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and archive this GoDaddy stuff, and I'm just going to right click out in this pane over here in the bottom right hand corner and create my directory, and I'll call it _archive original GD for GoDaddy. So now you see that I've created a new folder, currently only out on the remote version of this content, the remote server. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag this welcome there into that archive folder, and stats I'll just leave there so that we can have any stat reporting we want. And if we wanted to make a copy, I can't really do that quite as easily here with FileZilla, but maybe I'll just drag everything in here for now, and anything that you have there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this guy and bring him down locally. Now we don't do this as often, but here for the first time, just so that I can see my GoDaddy stuff being archived, I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and go to download. And so this is going to go from the remote server, and you'll see it's doing a lot of stuff here and refreshing, and finally it told me that the file transfer was successful. But I right clicked on that and I went to download, and now you'll see over here on this side I have that archive has been downloaded right here to my local version. Also, sometimes we have different names for this remote server. You'll see that it sometimes gets called a remote server, or sometimes we'll have it called the live server, or sometimes it's your published server, or deployed, or you'll hear production. All of these terms mean our live server with the real content, right, where we actually have stuff showing up for the user. Okay, So let's go ahead and currently go look and see what's going on with our website now that we've essentially moved everything out of the root folder. And so if I refresh here in my browser with an F5 or Control F5, sometimes that hard refresh is needed in case the browser has cached any of your files, meaning it holds them locally in a copy that you downloaded earlier, which might not be recent enough. So if you do a Control F5 in the browser for a hard refresh, you'll get this default page that GoDaddy is actually providing from their servers, completely separate from your root folder, that says 404 page not found error. So that's their default 404 page not found error that they provide because there is no content here anymore. So we need to put our content up there. So I'll go ahead and minimize this again and back to FileZilla. If I got disconnected, I appear to still be connected, but once in a while you get disconnected. There it is. Yep, for a timeout reasons. So if that were to happen to you, it's very easy to reconnect. You can just click on this little drop down again underneath the file menu and choose Personal V1 there, and that's going to reconnect us to our site. So I'll do that, Personal V1, and you can just abort the previous connection, and then it reconnects. And now I'm connected to the local and remote directories. Again, you can always verify that you're connected properly up here and up here for the local versus the remote areas. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and upload all this stuff on the left-hand side. So the whole idea is that we're publishing our content that we've worked on locally and tested and deploying it out to the live server. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything here, Control A. Once you click inside this area, it all goes blue, it's highlighted. And then if there's anything you decided for some reason you didn't want to upload, like I already have that archive, I could Control click to deselect it. Maybe I'm not interested in uploading my archive information here for other information, so I'll get rid of that. And then I'll just right click on the selected area and go to upload. Alternatively, you could also just drag. If I repeat those steps, I can also just drag the selected blue content over here into the remote folder area, and that will start the upload process. You can see all the documentation here on what's working and what doesn't. This should either give you a go-ahead that it's working and finally a file transfer successful, or it'll let you know that there's some sort of error and give you some sort of error code for some feedback on that. So we'll return when that's all done. Okay, so as you can see, our file transfer was successful and it transferred, all these different bytes and so on, and now I have over here on the right hand side, my remote server, all that content that we had over on the left hand side before. So we have published that content. If I return to my browser and hit Control F5 for a hard refresh, you'll see that now Centric Demo does have content. So this is the first version of my personal website, just static HTML and CSS and so on, nothing really dynamic, no ASP.NET yet. But I can move from page to page here. I go to my resume and I go over to my projects and go over to my links, my contact page. On your first version, you probably won't have really any functionality, even if you do add a contact form here, but you should at least have, your mailing address or email and phone and so on. Alright, so that's the idea here. That's my first version. Notice that as I go to these different locations, they are just HTML so far, but it could be anything that we deployed. And that ends our phase 1.